Good morning. It's Tuesday, November 19, 2019 in Altoona, Iowa. It was a pretty quiet weekend. Only Elizabeth Warren and Governor Steve Bullock from Montana were in town. I went to a town hall at a junior high school in Cedar Rapids to catch Elizabeth Warren's speech, and to my surprise, she repeated her stump speech almost word for word. She answered questions in the same democratic fashion, where audience members were given essentially a raffle ticket. They picked 3 or 4 questions out, and the persons who were picked got to ask whatever they wanted. I found neither the questions nor the answers to be particularly interesting. Tomorrow, Wednesday, November 20, is another national Democratic candidate debate. And I just finished looking up who is included in that debate and was surprised to find that the field was as large as it is and that it excludes some of the candidates who are quite active here. In particular, neither Governor Bullock nor Senator Bennett are included in the field. Tom Steyer, Andrew Yang are included in the field. Frankly, looking at the performance of candidates here, how seldom they are here, how their poll results, at least in the Iowa local polls, are reported, I think several candidates are still running for president solely to get the national exposure that they will get in these national debates. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to make it through any debate since the first and the second, both of which had 10 candidates on 2 nights. In the third debate, after Julian Castro castigated Joe Biden excessively, I turned the debate off in annoyance and have never turned it back on. The fourth debate, I lasted less than an hour because the format of 60 or 90 seconds to utter sound bites was boring. On the ground here in Iowa, I've been invited to 2 watch parties, one by the Kamala Harris for President people, one by the Elizabeth Warren people. I think I'm invited because I was required to give them my contact information when I attended campaign events. It is possible that these parties would be enjoyable, but I think there is an obligation to endure the entire debate. I don't think I can do that. Usually I wait till the debates are over and then I try to watch them on YouTube. I saw a short video on YouTube yesterday that said you can watch the debate live at thewashingtonpost.com. And frankly, the hotel room I have does have network television. I only turn it on for a football game occasionally, but I could turn it on for the national debates. I think I'm going to skip both of the debate parties because I don't really think they're candidate events. I think they're just, let's all sit around and watch the TV and cheer for our particular candidate. And again, I don't think I can make it through a national debate. It's too boring and too unrealistic. I learned a lot attending the Elizabeth Warren Town Hall in Cedar Rapids. I really was surprised that her lengthy stump speech was repeated almost word for word. I think it was 37 minutes in Ames, 35 minutes in Cedar Rapids. And when I spoke to a political science professor at the Bullock event in Grinnell, he had also attended the Cedar Rapids Town Hall, and he said that she skipped a portion of her stump speech during the opening remarks, but then inserted it in response to a question and answer, even though it didn't really fit the question. I'd like to elaborate on my point that I think some candidates are staying in solely for the national exposure. I realized that Beto O'Rourke dropped out just before the Jefferson-Jackson dinner here in Des Moines, but that's not national exposure, that's Iowa exposure. Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, they're not polling well. Senator Harris is spending a lot of time in Iowa, and it appears that that is not paying off for her. Cory Booker was here when I first arrived a month or more ago, and he hasn't really been back since. As long as he can be invited to these national debates, I imagine he'll stick around because it gets him good name recognition. But it is hard to believe that he expects to do well in Iowa. It is disappointing and somewhat of a puzzle that two Western candidates, Bullock and Bennett, are not invited to the national debates. Remember that Iowa is a swing state. From 2000, it went for Gore. 2004, it went for Bush. 2008 and 12, it went for Obama. 2016, it went for Trump. The Democrats need to win Iowa in 2020. Iowa residents, like all residents, will watch the national debate. The Democrats who go to the caucuses are aware that they have an opportunity to see these candidates up close and personal. There was an article in the Des Moines Register that stated that in October there were over 7,000 political events in Iowa, and there were only 132 candidate visits. That should indicate that many people are attending candidate events without the candidate being present. The best description I can give you is from a friend who attended a Mayor Pete event. She was invited by a friend of hers from her neighborhood, and when she attended, she found 8 or 10 other local residents and a professional staffer from the East Coast. The event appears to be an exercise where 12 words, which are intended to reflect Mayor Pete's platform, were put up, and each person in attendance was then asked to pick a single word from the list and then to discuss why that word ties into or relates to his or her support for Mayor Pete. The woman who was telling me about this picked the word joy. She is educated as a Unitarian minister, and she added that another person in the group who was a therapist, as in a shrink, also picked the word joy. So they both discussed the word joy. I'm not sure what the other words were. I'm also not sure that I could make it through such an event unless one of the words was inexperienced. I'm not against Mayor Pete. I'm glad Mayor Pete's in the race. It is surprising that a 37-year-old who has served as the mayor of a mid-sized city in Indiana that's also the home of Notre Dame is being taken seriously as a presidential candidate. Senator Klobuchar from Minnesota made the point that if Mayor Pete was a woman, he wouldn't be taken seriously because he doesn't have enough experience to be taken seriously. Objectively, that is true. The problem is that when you hear him speak, he's excellent. And in some cases, he's so much better than the other candidates that you realize what you're missing. I see a definite parallel to the campaign of Barack Obama in 2007, 2008. Here was this articulate, highly educated, erudite black senator who was a wonderful speaker and a great pleasure to listen to. And the initial reaction of most people was, America's not ready to elect a young black senator as president of the United States. Well, that turned out to be wrong, obviously. The parallel is America's not ready to select a young, well-educated gay man as president of the United States. Possibly that's mistaken also. Perhaps we are ready to do that. My concern with Mayor Pete is he is vastly inexperienced. And as I look back over the presidents who served and served poorly, I'm concerned about the lack of experience. The first one to come to mind is Jimmy Carter. At the Harris House event, I overheard two local Democrats who lived within a mile of the house talking to a reporter who was asking them questions. And they said that they would not support either Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren for president because they were against Medicare for all. And when asked what they would do in that event, the answer was, we simply wouldn't vote for president. I had that experience in 1980 when Jimmy Carter was up for re-election. I considered him to be a truly incompetent president. Carter just did a very bad job, and I could not bring myself to vote for him to be re-elected. He was running against Ronald Reagan, who was a known California conservative, so I didn't want to vote for him. And the third party candidate, I think it was someone from Minnesota, was a flake. So in 1980, I did vote. I voted for every position except President of the United States, and I left that blank. I think that's what this Iowa couple was saying to the reporter at the Kamala Harris House event. Yesterday, I saw a video on the Wall Street Journal site that was focused on the subject of Elizabeth Warren's choice to back Medicare for all. It made the point that only 51% of Democrats are in favor of Medicare for all and 47% are against it. If you realize that all Republicans in the Senate and the House are against Medicare for all, and half of the Democrats in the Senate and the House are against Medicare for all, there is no possibility that Medicare for all will be adopted. As the Wall Street Journal video noted, and as is common sense, one has to ask, why has Elizabeth Warren added this plank to her campaign for president? That single inclusion, Medicare for all, in all likelihood will cost her the Democratic nomination. And even if she got the Democratic nomination, and even if she was elected president, she wouldn't have a chance in hell of getting Medicare for all enacted. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please consider subscribing. A thumbs up is always welcome if you know how to do that. Thank you for watching.